Hey, everybody, welcome to Millionaire Real Estate Agent Book Club Facebook video interview with none only than MikeDuley. Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I've got a ton of stuff, ton of questions. I know you have an incredible story, and so thank you for agreeing to be on here because I know everybody in this Mastermind Book Club, we're all working to attain the same things. And I know you've got some great things to share with us today. So let's start off by you giving us a little bit of the background of how you got into real estate, what you did before, and what did you start, what did you stop last year? What did last year look like?
For sure. No, again, thanks for having me. So probably like a lot of people, when you get into real estate, you see it on TV, you dream about it, you say, oh, I'm going to do that one day. You never end up doing it. So I, for call it 13 years, sold to Walmart, Target, Fortune, call it 5 companies, all working with Fortune 200 companies. So corporate America, if you will.
Okay.
Loved it. Very blessed. Good job. But I had my 5-year-old, then I had my 17-month-old, and I was turning 40 years old. And I said, I kind of that midlife crisis, saying, these are great jobs and I'm enjoying it, but I want to reach for the stars, and I'm not doing it now. It's kind of, even though those jobs weren't really 8 to 5, that's kind of the mindset. And I had that, and I said, how am I going to tell my girls that I reach for the stars and you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want? And Dad didn't do that. So that was some of it, and some of it was from an investor standpoint. I said, I'm going to figure out other ways to have economic engines or other financial wealth engines that coming in to add wealth to me and my family. And so I talked to my father-in-law, who's a custom home builder here, and I'm based in Northwest Arkansas. And I said, let's build a spec a quarter. I'm going to keep my world, keep it going, and I'm going to have other engines. And he said, yeah, let's explore it. Let's look at it. The guy's been building for 42 years and never built a spec in his life.
Wow.
So you guys know how that ended up. He said, why don't you get your license? Thinking that I wouldn't get my license. He said, why don't you get into real estate to help on, obviously our cash flow and our margins be higher? I did that. And then when I was ready basically to pull the trigger, he wasn't really ready and he wasn't there. And I'll tell you, I actually did all my research. I met with several different brokerages, and I came upon this brokerage, Keller Williams. I got the million dollar real estate book from my team leader, handed it to me, which happens a lot in our market centers. But I actually read it, and I actually
wait a second. You what?
Yeah. I read it.
Wow.
I think I've read it now 5 times maybe, and I'll go back to my story, but I do want to share this. All 5 times I've been in a different place in my life, in my career, and I've caught on to different things that I didn't read before. And I really think that I'm spending the time on really reading it, investing it, and I go, I never read that before. So I'm probably 5 times in, but I read that and I said, wait a minute, I can be a millionaire. I can change my life, and I can be my own owner, my own boss. This is what I've been looking for at, call it, my 40-year mark, and this is how I have a legacy, and how I tell my family you can do whatever you want. So I started. Here's the funny story. I'm all in. I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm ready to go. And my wife goes, wait a minute. You're going to leave these corporate jobs that mama gets a check every 2 weeks, and you're going to do commission only. Let's pump the brakes here. I know you read this book and you're drinking the Kool-Aid. So I got my license Valentine's Day 2016. But my wife was saying, no. And I did start full-time August 1st, 2016. And why there was a little bit of gap there, or what happened, is she wanted me to consult. I was still doing where I got paid every 2 weeks. In my July, though, I hit 7 deals in July in 2016. Wow. So I'm working 50, 60 hours at another job, and I was able to close 7 deals. And here's why. And I wish I could go back to this now. There's some times where, it's like 7 deals don't happen. But here's why. I was really purposeful. I was being challenged by my spouse and my partner saying, you can't do this. So I wanted to win for us. Hopefully you didn't lose me. Nope. My computer I had a notification pop up saying meeting, next meeting. So I was really purposeful, and I think that's made the difference. So whenever I was talking to a client or talking to someone, I got right to their motivation, and I closed them, and I made them either A sellers or A buyers. And I think that's the difference for me. But once I closed 7, my wife said, okay, we're on to something. You're allowed, basically, I'll let you start real estate. So I started full-time, started the Duley Group here in Northwest Arkansas. and it was just myself. But right then I realized I didn't like paperwork. I didn't want to do paperwork. So I paid an outside transaction coordinator, TC, $275 to do the deals. And just the rest is history, I guess, right?
Okay, so the first year was 16. You're by yourself.
Yes.
And then how did that work at that point? What was the next progression in that team, or because now you have a team? So what was the middle gap there?
Yeah, and great question. So I think actually immediately I actually brought on so my sister actually is my chief of staff now, which is funny to look back. It's not like it's been 10 years, but it feels like that, I guess, in real estate world. She was actually, I was blessed enough where she was for Gene Rivers, and a lot of you know him for Keller Williams, an awesome, brilliant, great guy. She actually did some of his listing coordination and transaction management and that in Tallahassee, Florida. So that was some of the reason, too, that I asked her about, hey, can I do this? And she kind of talked about Gene, and I said, we're going to take a shot at this. So I said, hey, she was a stay-at-home mom at the time, not working in real estate. I said, will you give me 5 hours a week? I need a little bit of assistant work. So she was doing that virtual, and that was my first time of doing that virtual. So she's in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm in Arkansas. People still to this day say, I can't wait to meet Jen. And I was like, well, you have to travel to Florida to do that. So that started ramping up. And then that TC person, I told them about the vision and where we were going. They got their license, and they became an agent. Then I brought another agent on, and just continued to grow, where now I think just in Northwest Arkansas, I think we have a senior client care manager, which handles all our TC. We have a marketing manager. We have, I call her our client success coordinator, but it's a listing coordinator. And we have a chief of staff. And then I think we have 16 agents.
Okay. So end of 16, how many agents did you have, and what was the production?
I think it was 2 agents probably, part-time assistant. And I think we ended up doing about $20 million.
In your first year in real estate.
And and it's funny you say that. And my coach challenges on me on this, and you tell me, he says, that's not your first year. You weren't doing it. But yes, if you want to count that my first year, call it 20 million.
I think anybody listening to this who's wanting to or is building a team, they're going to look at that as your first year and go, whoa, all right. So first year, 20 million, because we're calling it your first year. So first year, 20 million, and you have a couple agents. What's the difference between first year? Where did you end? So 17 was your second year then, yes? So where did you end 17?
17, I think we were about 47.2, somewhere in there. And I'll go into that too, is obviously I brought on and had expansion locations. And I think that's where the difference, but our Arkansas location ended up being 37.5 million.
So from 0 to 20 to 37.5 million. So, okay. So before we go any further, two things I wrote down here that you were saying, because if I'm listening, I want to hear this. First off, you touched on modeling, right? The fact that if I tell my girls that they can do this, I have to show them, right? And it made me think of, we've heard it from Diana Kokoska, we've heard it from a number of people, that people do what they see, not what they hear, right? Which then ties back to the other thing I wrote down. You talked about vision. You said, I cast the vision for a TC, I believe you said, and they started part-time. Now, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing at that time, you were casting a vision for something from where you were at that point looked crazy. Like it sounded crazy. Like I don't know how that is so far away in my mind from where we are today. How do you cast that vision? Because what I've found with leaders across the country is casting vision is one of the single biggest deficiencies in organizations. So how do you obviously have mastered this, or you're working towards mastering it? How do you cast that vision successfully? Because you've obviously nailed it here.
I got a long way to go. As you and I have talked about too, it's investing in yourself. But I think I realized, I said, you know what? Gary said you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. So how do I do that? And, I can't take credit for it too. I want to obviously give David Hoffman, my coach too, is we talked through it. And I think here's the thing that I want to make sure I share with the people watching or your listeners. Most of the time we go, we do this to the agents and new people. We say, in your first year, be lucky if you cap. How many times have you heard that? And David didn't do that to me. And here was the thing. He said, let's look at your team. Let's see who we are. And let's come up with a bottoms up number. And I'll tell you, for 17, our number was 82.5 million bottoms up. So how many people, I call that my first year, or call it second year, whatever you want. How many people go, whoa, 82.5 million. I didn't know any different. I wasn't in real estate. I had never been in real estate. I didn't know. I said, that's where we're going. So obviously our tools, our systems, what we would use, we said that's our vision, that's where we're going. So everything we built was going to that. So if someone would have said, put that mindset on me and said, you're going to cap, call it $2.8 million, I would have fallen short and I would have been 2.5 million. And it happens every day. So I think that's the difference. As my MAPS coach, we didn't let me do that. And he never gave me that 2.5 million. So that was never in my mind because I wasn't in real estate before. And I think the other piece is because I had been in corporate America, one of my desks that I ran was Oreos, Chips Ahoy, so forth to Walmart. So my desk business was 1.4 billion. So I obviously was used to big numbers and used to things. And I didn't balk at when it said 82.5 million. Now looking back, I know that's in Gary's top 100, right. All these things, top 1%, all this, but I didn't know then. And I didn't know for a long way. I mean, I wasn't in anyone's radar, had no idea. I mean, if you look at it in our board, I think we have 3,000 agents. They did not know who MikeDuley was. They didn't know who the Dooley Group was. They didn't know anyone on our team because I was bringing people from corporate America and saying, here's the vision. We're going to go to number one. Are you with me? They had never sold real estate either. And they were like, yes, let's do it. Sounds fun.
Whoa. Okay. Hold up. So you were building your business, which a lot of times we hear the excuse of, oh, I can't get people until I have the systems in place, or I can't bring that many people on until I have the volume and the production. Sure. You didn't have any of that really set up. And now not only were you bringing on agents, but you were bringing people from the same corporate type job you had where they were used to getting paid every 2 weeks. And you were selling them on the vision of where you were going before the evidence showed up. And they were gladly doing it. They were excited about it.
For sure. Dead on. Here's the thing, and I think I realized that they realized the same thing I did. We had great jobs and just say, directionally, just say 150K. But when you have those jobs, you're going to make 4%, year over year over year. So I was saying, who wants to be millionaires? Who wants to have abundance? Who wants to have wealth? So they didn't have a financial lid on them. See, before they did, this is all about them. And even me, one of the jobs that I did, I launched Yankee Candle at Walmart, which was awesome. I learned a lot from doing that. And that was a lot of fun. But in doing that, I was working 7 days a week. I was working nights, still doing that. I think people think corporate America, you're not doing that. But when you're launching a brand like Yankee Candle at Walmart, you're working all the time. But it was my lid or whatever I was making wasn't going to change. And then it's still a blessing, and I don't want to take away from that. But what I want to share with people, what I realized is, wait a minute, if I go into real estate, I work harder, I lead gen more, I bring more people in my world, I pour through people, and I have people, I'm succeeding through others. This world can be massive. And I'm learning that every day. And then I can change their life. Wait a minute. So not only can I provide more for my family, I can help other people. And that was kind of an aha for me.
That's massive, man. It goes back to Ben Kinney's shared multiple times. As leaders, our vision has to be big enough that the people that we're drawing into our organization can see their vision being accomplished within ours.
For sure.
Right. And that puts big pressure, upward pressure on the person that's running the team, the person casting the vision, because we have to think bigger than even we think is possible sometimes. I'm sure, tell me I'm not the only one. There's got to be days you wake up and you're like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this or not. If we've got to push ourselves to believe it before the evidence shows. There you go. We have to believe it before the evidence shows up, because if we don't believe it, the people watching us won't believe it either. Yeah.
And, and I think too, I'll tell you the difference is, I work nights and weekends. I'm working all the time, but it's different now than it was then. So here's another piece. I think a lot of people want to be seventh level, and I'll consider myself, if you will, seventh level. I'm probably 6.5 or 6. Is my coach and I decided, and we actually picked a date. It was May 1st of last year. I wasn't going to take any more business. And I think Gary Keller actually had a tweet on this too. It's like, how can you be the coach when you're also the player? It doesn't work. So if you're going to be at 30,000 feet and you're going to help see the strategy and lay out the plan and what's the playbook, if you're inside the playbook, how are you actually going to do that? So once we made, if I wanted to share with your listeners and people watching, May 1st was game changing for me, because then I was actually even more looking at this like a business, because I wasn't in and you hate to say rat race, but I wasn't negotiating with other agents. It wasn't about the IRSA. It wasn't about closing dates. I wasn't showing up to closings. And I can really be more purposeful with my calendar.
That's massive. Like that Les Brown, I don't know if you read or listen to Les Brown. That guy's amazing. And one thing he said that you made me think of is it's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame.
I
Right.
love
And
that.
that's what you did is you got a different perspective. And that's the difference, like we read about in the MREA book. But that's the difference we read about in working on the business or working in it. And to get the business to go to the highest level possible, we have to focus more of your time working on the business and the strategy and the vision and all that stuff. You can't do that when you're having to work in the business and meeting clients and opening lock boxes and all that stuff.
For sure.
Right?
One, I'll tell you
Massive.
another piece that I want to share too is, and I'm realizing this and learning this from mentors, Adam Hergenrother. I mean, everyone, Cody Gibson, you name it, all bold coaches, everyone that's in MAPS is saying burst. This happens in bursts. See, in the beginning, I was doing an hour or 90-minute coffees with either recruits or clients. Now everything is in 15-minute bursts. If you know you only have 15 minutes and the other person knows you have 15 minutes, how purposeful are you?
Absolutely.
And that's really been game-changing for me because now I'm wearing like 5 hats. I have like 5 businesses. And how do you get them all done? I get more done now than I did before.
Isn't that interesting? All right, so let's go down that road. So you ended 17 very successfully, and you stepped into new opportunities. So what are all of those things you're doing now? What are all those hats you're wearing now?
No, great. I'm director of growth for Hergenrother Realty Group, which, one of the top 4 expansion teams in the world for Keller Williams. I think they're number 23 in all of real estate in the world, which is pretty cool. So I'll tell you too, and actually that I progressed, I think it was August 1st, I was the regional director. So I had the Heartland region because, and I tell people this, and I want to share it. I was blessed enough that it's results oriented. I had only been doing that role for 60 days. And then I got the director of growth October 1st. Because I was bringing it every day and results oriented, it wasn't about time. I think a lot of people, and you mentioned this in the beginning, agents, all of us, in whatever business we're in, we say, oh, I need to be in that role for 18 months. Oh, I need to be in that role for 2 years. No, you don't. Just bring it every day. And people are going to find the who, and you're going to elevate. So obviously I'm doing that. I'm running still the CEO of the Duley Group, which is the Arkansas location. But that's evolved where we have a Kansas City location now. We have an Omaha, Nebraska location and a Charlotte, North Carolina. So we've expanded in those. So I run those. Obviously, I have CEO or expansion partners that run those actual offices, but I run that. And then I launched a building company. So the Regency Group, we're building 11 homes right now, which is just crazy. And people are probably looking at me like, that guy doesn't even swing a hammer. You're right, I don't. And I want to make sure I share this with everyone. Here's what I realized quickly. Last year in 17, how many of your clients go, who's your favorite builder? Who should I build with? That was maybe 30 times, and that was an aha to me. So I was sourcing them to people like my father-in-law and other builders. And my father-in-law, he has a niche market. He only likes working with a certain clientele. So some of them weren't progressing or weren't moving along with builders. And I realized that we were losing the client, and it looked bad on us because the service wasn't good. That's one of the things that I want to make sure that we're doing, end-to-end flawless service. It's not only about helping them with their home and helping the family. It's about all the pieces that go with it. You need your best dry cleaner, whatever it is, we're here to help you. We're going to be a resource. And I said, we're failing. And I had a who. I have one of my good friends that Roush Coleman is one of the companies here. They're actually one of the top, I think, 40 or 50 builders in the country. He was a divisional for them. He wasn't doing that anymore. And I said, you know what? Why don't we launch a building company? I literally have, from a business development perspective, 30 people a year easily that want to build. And we launched that May 31st of last year officially.
Wow.
But really getting after it, and we're building 11 homes right now, which is crazy.
That is awesome, man.
Yep.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right. So how do you balance all of that? I've got a couple more questions for you before we wrap it, but I know that everyone's going to be looking at that going, I'm crazy enough busy in my own world just having a team. How the heck does this guy do the team and a building company and run an expansion group and still be married and still remember your kids' names? Like, how do you do all of that?
A couple things. Obviously, having great mentors. I don't want to leave. I don't want to make it look like MikeDuley. So I'm investing in myself by podcasts. I'm reading. I think I'm very coachable. I think that's another thing. Get out of your own way. I mean, hopefully I can say this in 5 years from now. We continue to have success, but I see people are where I want to go, and I'm listening to them. I'm writing down. And in 17, and I know we've met at several conferences, I went to about 20 or 30 events. So real estate related events, mega camp, you name it. I went to everything, expansion summit, you name it, took notes, learned from people. And like a lot of us say, R&D, replicate and duplicate, because that's what I love about Keller Williams culture too, is that here's how I do it. Here you go. Here's the playbook. And you know what? Most people just don't do it. But I did. I said, that's awesome. That's great. And I'm going to implement that into my company, my life. So that's one thing. Obviously, too, you want to have great people around you. I have an amazing chief of staff, Jen. She makes sure that I'm going where I need to go. She makes sure that she's saying no to the right people, yes to the right people. And I think that obviously changes things for me, is not only is she part of my business, she's part of my personal life. And what I mean by that, and I think we miss this, we want to separate things. When you're doing this at a high level, you can't. So here's an example, that a little tip that I've learned. I'm going to go out of town and I travel a lot. Say I'm going to Vermont, our headquarters, and it's next month in 2 weeks. 2 weeks out, Jen texts me and my wife and says, just a quick reminder, Mike's going to be in Vermont in 2 weeks. Now it's on my wife's calendar, it's on my calendar, but that's just a good reminder to say we need to start thinking about whether it's babysitting or meals, we're further out. And just having a partner like that is big. And then here's the other piece. And I know it's a long answer, but I want to make sure I get some of this out.
Good,
for
man.
Obviously your fellowship is when you do that and you have other opportunities, you can actually pour into other people and let them have other opportunities. How many people, especially in real estate, want to continue to sell real estate? Now, there is some, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'd say a lot of people that want to have a career path, and you see, when you think of real estate, you don't see it as a career path. But we've actually been able to provide that. So I have, like, for instance, Mick is one of my people. He's my senior director of sales. He's been able to elevate. Now he's making portions of the business, and he's running the team. It gives him an opportunity to be an entrepreneur and really be a leader.
Absolutely. I love that. It's all about getting other people to what they want to accomplish. And we'll always then, Zig said it, you help other people get what they want, you'll always get what you want.
For sure.
Right? It's huge. All right. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So I like to do a thing at the end here where it's just rapid fire. I ask you a short, quick question, and you give me like a 1 or 2 sentence answer off the top of your head. You can tell all the people here how much preparation we did before this. Do you know the questions? No,
I don't. Well, okay. I'm almost thinking I want to say my computer internet went out and I can't hear you because I'm kind of nervous.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. How do you define success?
Legacy. Leaving a great legacy, I think.
Okay. What's your greatest fear?
I think health for my kids. Okay. I want them to have great health. I think if I see too many times where people lose their kids.
Got it. Okay. What one word would you use to describe where you are and what you've accomplished so far?
Nowhere where I want to be, but I would say blessed. Just for the opportunities. Obviously, Gary Keller, Keller Williams, and all the mentors. Blessed, but nowhere where I want to be.
Awesome. All right. How we doing? We doing okay?
I don't know. I think I'm kind of bombing on some of them.
No, you're doing good, man. You're doing good.
Tell you, if I had to go back to fears too, I think about it every day is going backwards in my business. That's one of them. I want to keep going forward, and that's tough.
And I think that's a healthy motivation. Yes. I share the same thing there with you. So along those same lines, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated? Because not every day can you be happy Mike Dooley that we all know, yet every day you're happy Mike Dooley, at least on the exterior. So what do you do to keep yourself inspired and motivated and pushing forward?
Honestly, I just internalize as in I live in America. I see how the opportunities that I have. I think that's really every day where I go, wow, I have a healthy family, and it's really the only thing that's stopping any growth or success is me. Where else, I guess, in the world, who has those kind of opportunities? I think that's a lot of where I just realize I'm blessed and I'm in a good place.
Perspective for sure.
For sure.
What do you want to be remembered for when you're gone?
I think that he always paid it forward. That I always gave something to someone else, either whether it's a nonprofit, charity, or mentorship, and I helped, and I was always willing to help.
Okay, here's the last one. What's the biggest mistake you've made, and what did you learn from it?
I think I'm making it every day. We talked about it earlier. It makes it seem like I'm balancing everything. I'm not. I mean, there's balls dropping all the time. They talk about the one thing, family tends to drop a lot, and I don't want that to happen because we think as business people and leaders, we're doing it for our family, but it doesn't translate when you're actually in the mission. So I think that's a lot of it is I don't want a couple of those key balls, religion, family, to drop.
Huge. The values, the life wheel, right? Making sure we have as round of a wheel as possible. That's massive. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Before we go, though, I'd be remiss if we didn't let people know how they can follow you, connect with you. Where are you at on social media? What's a good website to find you at? Like, how do they connect with you?
That's great. Yep. I'm MikeDuley on Facebook. Unfortunately, I have 5,000 followers already, so you can follow me. I can't interact with you, but we'll get some of those deleted. Website is hergroup.com. And then on Instagram, I'm MikeDuley007, a little James Bond for you.
Well, Mike, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for all the nuggets you shared. We look forward to having you back on here in the future.
I love it. It was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Well, just before you cut, too, I want to make sure if everyone sees this background, a true salesman wouldn't be selling all the day. You can have this view if you move to Northwest Arkansas. We actually have this house listed. So if you want to find out more about it, let me know.
ABC, baby. Always be selling. Always be closing. Thanks, man.
Yep. Awesome.